Hey, Space Watchers, and welcome back here from Riyadh. We are at day number 1 at the Connecting the World from the Skies Summit, and that's the second edition here. And I have the great honor to have with me here Her Excellency Aarti Holla-Maini, Director of UNOOSA. Aarti, how are you doing?
I'm fine. It's great to see you here again, Torsten.
Wonderful. So we had just 2 weeks ago a podcast recording, and you were referring to the upcoming event COP29 in Baku. You just returned from there. What have been your takeaways from Baku?
In Baku, there was multiple events where the satellite sector or the space sector was involved, whether it was early warning for all, whether it was events talking about oceans and sea level rise, or even whether it was internal dialogues of the senior management group of the United Nations. And there was an overwhelming call for, on the one hand, greater access at the local level of high-resolution satellite imagery, and secondly, for the United Nations to be better organized to be helping member states.
So what can the space sector do to help nation states, to help in the crisis sector? I mean, UN Spider and these kind of activities are out there for years or almost decades to help. But what is still the missing link that we still discuss the same topics again and again?
We are going to discuss these same topics even more as the effects of climate change are felt even greater all across the world, and therefore the imperative for us to act becomes greater. It's important to note that the work that we already do through programs like UN Spider is extremely valuable and has great impact. Let me give you one example. Just a few months ago, we were at the Pacific Island Forum with the Secretary General, and UNOOSA had mobilized space agencies and the private sector to access very high-resolution satellite imagery and create a digital elevation model from which we created then a digital twin to literally simulate the impact of sea level rise on the mainland of Tonga. And I was at COP with the Prime Minister of Tonga, and we were discussing this, and I had Fiji, Seychelles, multiple other island states saying, please can you do for us what you've done for them? So I think the challenge for the space sector is how do we get better organized? We see so many initiatives, so much investment going into new, more sophisticated satellites, but you still have a data divide between those who need it and the suppliers who are taking all these initiatives.
I was about to ask, so who shall pay for all of that? I mean, are these data that are available? Like, if you talk about simulations, then these are specific data for a specific someone has to pay for it, and that is still expensive. I mean, it's not for free.
The United Nations has various agreements in place with private suppliers such as Maxar and Airbus, and we are able to use what is called GDO discounts, Global Development Organization discounts, but we have to be much smarter about it. Right now we have over 25 entities in the UN system who are all buying data separately. So for example, for South Sudan, you might have UNDP, UNEP, UNICEF, and multiple other agencies who are all buying the same data for one country. In any given week, UNOOSA receives at least 2 of these requests from different UN agencies. So we need to become more efficient so that we can reduce the price, or so that we can get more for the price that we are paying. And I think the UN is at an inflection point. We are under pressure to deliver on UN 2.0, an initiative to really catapult the United Nations into the 21st century. So I think my industry background and industry approach can be useful here.
I think so too. Now we're in Riyadh at the Connecting the World from the Skies. Another event where your industry background fits in perfectly. So what have been your takeaways from the first day here?
It was interesting for me because I was involved in the 3GPP process to develop these standards in the 5G for integration of satellite into non-terrestrial networks to come out with NTNs. And now I see it from the United Nations perspective. So the UN has been a very natural and historical user of satellite systems and satellite communications. And we are also a very keen beta tester for new technologies. At the same time, tried and trusted, and quality of service in the SLAs that are in place is an absolute must, because the applications that we use SATCOMs for are mission critical, whether it's peacekeeping, whether it's emergency communications, or processing refugee influx, biometric processing which has to happen on the spot. So it's interesting to see now from the public sector, the UN perspective, the relevance of these new technologies coming online and when and how we might use them. Right now we're still using legacy C-band. It's premium bandwidth, it's expensive, and it's only for work hours. And you can imagine when UN staff are in the field, whether it's Gaza, whether it's another conflict zone, or whether you're seeing poverty or famine or whatever it is, it can be quite challenging at a human level. So the after hours tools that you can give staff to be able to use connectivity for leisure is increasingly important. That's something where Starlink, with its higher bandwidth, is being used already within the UN system. We hope that the promise of new systems which can provide a guaranteed quality of service will come online soon, maybe like, I don't know, Viasat or OneWeb, higher capacity, but with service level agreements.
I see.
It's something that Starlink doesn't provide at this point.
Absolutely. Aarti, thank you very much for your very valuable time. I know that you're on the run again. With that, the audience, Space Watch out for today. Bye.